Good morning. So for today's episode on my potting patio, I will be repotting a peace lily. Now, this peace lily was given to me by a friend. I should actually say entrusted to me by a friend whose grandmother, who has now passed, gave it to her. So I am honored that she trusts me as much as she does to repot her peace lily, which quite honestly looks a little bit sad. It's seen better days. But she's given me 2 pots to divide it and hopefully rehab it back very quickly. Hopefully a good dousing of water and some good soil does the trick. But I'll show you my process and what I'm looking for as I go through the division and the health of the plant. And glad to have you guys join me. Let's get going. So this is our specimen that we're going to be working with today. You can see it's a little bit droopy. Some of the leaves are browning at the bottoms. It is trying to push out some new growth, as you can see, but it is in need of a good solid drink and perhaps a rejuvenation of the potting soil. She has given me 2 pots in which to plant it into. They do have drainage holes. One is a self-watering pot, which I think is great for the peace lilies because, as you know, they need constant hydration. Otherwise, they sure tell you they're big drama queens. The other one has a raised bottom, so I'm not quite sure what the design for that is for, but I'll do some research and I'll get back to you on that one. But let's get going. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have a look at the plant, make sure that we don't have any sort of insects or scale or mealybugs. I know these guys are particularly prone to some of those insects, especially when they get dry. I see some new leaves unfurling that are very, very droopy, so that tells me they definitely need a drink of water. A couple of older leaves that are white and, yellow and turning brown, so we'll probably be getting rid of those. I then want to inspect and see what the natural divisions look like. So I know it's a little bit hard for you guys to see, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 divisions off of this baby. There are probably 2 main ones that I'll probably use to fill the 2 new pots, and then I'll probably divide those little guys and put those in there so that she receives a nice full pot, and hopefully won't have to repot it for some time. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stick my water meter in here just to have a look and see what the moisture level is, to see what the correlation is with the drooping leaves. My guess is that it's probably on a 1 or 2 on the moisture meter, just so I know what I'm getting into. All right, so as I suspected, it is actually pretty darn dry. So we're gonna get this into some new potting soil. It does seem to be in quite a heavy mix, so when we do repot it, we're gonna do a little bit of aeration, which does mean she's gonna have to keep an eye on the water content. But we'll hopefully have a more resilient, more robust plant that she'll have a little bit easier maintenance on in the long run. So you can see here these natural divisions, and they have a pretty darn good root system. The soil around them was actually more moist than I expected. We've got a couple really little babies here. Those will probably go in and just grow amongst their more mature divisions here. This is one of the mother divisions. I can see here that it's kind of a main growing stalk here. And the roots are happy. They look like they're almost a little bit on the root rot side, but they're still healthy. I think we can save them. We've got a couple of babies starting to pop up here. Oops. You can see that little white node there. That's going to actually pop up to be a whole nother peace lily. So that's one of the main stems. This one is a 3-banger, 3 different divisions here. So we're going to separate those, and let's see if we can tease those roots apart gently. Obviously, we want to keep as many roots as we can. So there's probably another good, healthy mother plant. So we'll separate that out. And we've got this one who's a little immature, but that one should do just fine. And then we've got this one, which has more of a fan shape, as you can see, off a nice, strong growing stalk. So we'll clean up those roots, get her into some nice. So this is another one of the more mature mother plants, I'll call it. It's off of a pretty sturdy growing stem with a plentiful root system here. You can see it has more of a fan shape. Usually the original plants will have more of a fan shape because they have a stronger, robust growing system from which to grow from. So that's good. We've got another little juvenile division here. You can see it doesn't have that fan shape that mother plant has. It's got a lot of different stalks, but again, nice, robust root system. So we'll use that to fill the pot. And last but not least, we actually have a third mother stalk with some debris here that's rotted. So, but you can see that fan shape coming through here and that nice growing stem and really nice healthy roots. So I think among these 5 or 6 divisions, we should be able to give her 2 nice, healthy, full pots. So now, before we repot, we're just gonna clean these guys up a little bit. Get rid of the debris that's old and dead or rotting, because we don't want that rot to spread. So let's get rid of some of that dead foliage here. All right, I'm just using a pair of scissors. Cut that one down, there we go. This guy has some dry foliage here. She did tell me that in order to keep it contained, she was just cutting off the stalks, which is fine, that's not a problem, but you're gonna end up with some yucky debris looking brown dying leaves, which is never good, especially if it's an indoor plant. It doesn't look so nice. We have we've got 2 leaves here that are older. They're on the outside of the bundle. So we're gonna go ahead and get rid of those. There's plenty of new growth and healthy growth. Cut those off. Those will go below the soil line. Okay, get rid of those. This one looks pretty good. This one we've got just some old dry foliage here. I'm gonna pull that off. And sometimes when you pull off that dry foliage, it actually exposes some of the fresh stem and actually will promote some more root growth or some more leaf growth from it. So I like to uncover all the fresh white, light green growth underneath the soil. And actually you can see here, so this is old foliage here, but if I pull that away, get that off of there, you can actually see, hopefully my camera focuses, but there's some little roots emerging here. So that'll give them a chance to actually get to the soil and hopefully not be suffocated by too much water. All right, so we have our divisions all cleaned up. Let's go put these in a different basket so we can prepare our soil. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, we'll put these aside. All right, let's see. Little baby there. Okay, so my traditional mix is quite chunky because I do a lot of philodendrons. Peace lilies, of course, don't need quite as chunky a soil just because they really thrive on that water consumption. So I'm actually going to add a little bit of just straight soil to hopefully give it a little bit more water retention. My traditional mix is, as I mentioned, very perlite heavy, very bark heavy. I probably only use about 30% soil, if that. So let's amend a little bit. Okay, that should do it. Let's get dirty here. I added some moist potting soil since my usual mix is all bone dry, so that way hopefully it'll give it a nice happy medium to get settled into. Now, if I wasn't confident, which I'm pretty confident with peace lilies, I have several of them in my house. I think I've nailed how much water they need in my environment. But if I wasn't confident, I would stick those cuttings into water for a few days, let those leaves perk up a little bit, and then we'd go ahead and repot them. But I think that we'll be fine to repot them and then give them a good water and then let those leaves recover in the pot. Okay, so we've got a nice mix. It keeps a little bit of the form when I squeeze it, but it doesn't stay in a ball too much. The original form would have just crumbled, and that's more for the aroids that I use and like to pot more traditionally. All right, so let's get filling the pot. So this yellow pot is, it's quite big. It has a very, very deep base. So we're going to use the more mature cuttings for that pot. And it does have a drainage hole, which is good. So let's just start filling. I'm going to fill it about halfway with the potting mixture before I even start to place the plants. All right. All right, so we're about halfway full here. Filled it about halfway. Let's get our divisions. All right. So with peace lilies, compared to some of the terrestrial philodendrons and aroids that don't like to be overwatered, I don't mind planting them a little bit on the deep side, just because it does allow them to get that moisture right to their roots. Obviously with the philodendrons and especially the alocasias, you wouldn't want to do that because you don't want that water to just sit right at the base there. So we're gonna place these out a little bit so it gives the illusion that it's a little bit more full, and these will all develop more stalks as the plant matures and settles in. So it should fill out that pot pretty nicely. All right, you know what? I'm going to add one more because the pot is bigger than the other one she gave me. Okay. All right. So what I usually do is I kind of lie these a little bit where I want them against the pot. I start filling it with soil, and then as the soil is deep enough to hold in those roots, I start to adjust them, hold them upright, and then pat the soil in. Because I know some people have asked me, how in the world do I hold all of the divisions at once and get them all potted? So we're going to add some soil here. And just keep it loose so that you can pack it down and place the plants where you want. There we go. Okay. Make sure those roots are nice and covered. Add some more soil here. Okay, so we're just going to lightly get these upright and see what we like. See if we like the orientation of them. This one's, there we go, like that. Okay, that's two. Got a third here. See, the roots have come above the soil, so let's dig those down a little bit. Okay. All right, we've got four. And then this little guy. All right, let's get these guys buried in nicely. they don't topple over. And then I will give this a thorough watering just to settle all the soil, get rid of those air pockets, and give it a good chance at reviving those leaves. Okay. Now this pot does have I call it a lip, but it's what I usually use as the soil line. As I mentioned, I'm gonna go a little below that for the peace lily, because I don't mind planting these a little bit on the deep side below the lip line, just to make sure that that water really penetrates that soil and doesn't evaporate too quickly. These are definitely not a candidate for a terracotta pot. If you were to use a terracotta pot, I feel like your whole life would be dedicated to just watering these guys every few hours, because they can be so darn dramatic. But luckily she's given me plastic pots, and I keep mine in plastic pots inside in kind of an indoor planter that has rock at the bottom, so they get a thorough watering. I do not keep their I call them their water skirt, but that little kind of vessel that collects the water, you can take it off if you'd like and let the water drain freely, which is what I have done. Some people, especially in the office, I know will keep that on, one, so it doesn't leak all over their windowsill or desk, but secondly, so that it retains the water more readily and they don't have to water them as much. All right, so we're gonna rotate this guy, add a little bit more soil here because it's a little uneven in the soil line. There we go. Okay, and hopefully these guys will settle in nicely. And I'll give you guys an update in a few days to show you what the leaves will look like, hopefully after they recover and settle into their new house. And I actually didn't ask her if she preferred to have clear divisions in the pot, meaning 4 distinct different plants, or if she would have liked me to put them as kind of a clump. But I'm gonna go ahead and just go with 4 distinct cuttings because the roots will have more room to grow into this pot, and it is a little bit big for them, so that's why I made that decision. I made my executive decision, so hopefully she's happy with that. Okay, so we've got the repot right there. We'll give it a watering when I'm done with the next pot, and I'll let you guys know how they recover. All right, let's get my soil back flat. There we go. I'll take off my watch. So as you can see here with the self-watering pot, you could poke these holes out to give it some drainage. I'm going to leave it as is. It has a drainage tray, so the plant will sit just above the bottom of the pot to let that water filter through a little bit so it's not sitting in stagnant water. I will make sure to let her know the utility of this pot, because if she's not careful, she'll end up overwatering it. And I know that seems almost impossible with a peace lily, but it can be done. So she is gonna have to be aware that this is not gonna be free draining. I'm not gonna go ahead and poke those holes, so the water that she puts in is gonna stay there. So she's gonna have to stick her finger in the dirt or just pay attention to it wilting and then go from there. All right, so we're about half full, maybe a little bit more. Now with this pot, since the lip is probably about 3 or 4 inches, I'm gonna go ahead and put the soil line well above it, just because I think it's a little too deep. And that way she'll have a little taller looking plant. Okay, so we've got 2 big divisions here, and then I'll use 2 of the little juvenile ones to hopefully grow on. And okay, and actually these are so small that I'm probably going to pot them up separately for her, because I don't want them to drown in the amount of water when she waters it. So All right. And I do pay attention to the orientation of the divisions when I do them. So this guy, you can see the leaves those are the back of the leaves. So you can tell that it's been growing towards the light, a certain direction. And so when I place them in the pot, I'm gonna make sure that the back of the leaves are gonna be facing inward, so it looks more full. All right, so there we go with that and that. Take these down just a little, there we go. Okay. Add some soil. All right, let's get these guys upright. Okay, we've got one, two, oops, that one didn't stay. Let's add some more soil. Two. All right, and three. Okay, and now that these guys are somewhat upright, I can use my scoop and really get the soil in there. Okay.
Powering off.
Okay, so then we have our other peace lily plant. I'm actually pretty pleased. They both look pretty full, which is good. So now let's give it a nice little drink. Remember, this is the pot that that has the reservoir. So we're not going to go overboard, but we're just going to let the soil settle. Get rid of those air pockets. There we go. That's it. All right. Place that down here. And let's give this guy a good watering. Let's get some more water. I'm gonna get the leaves a little bit because they're a little on the dusty side. All right, there we go. Clean out the edge a little, that's it. And there we have our second peace lily. This one, the leaves were in worse condition. Obviously you can see they're a little bit less mature, a little bit more droopy, but I think that this will recover just fine, and I'll give you an update in a few days to see what it looks like. All right, let me give you guys a picture. So as I was cleaning out that pot that they were originally in, I realized the culprit. This pot does not have any drainage holes. So my guess is that there was not a consistent, happy amount of water going into it. It would either tremendously dry out or it would become very, very, very overwatered, which makes sense because the mix was very, very dense. So I'll definitely be letting her know that she needs to make sure that her pots need to have drainage holes. And if it does not have drainage holes, then she needs to be very, very wary and maybe even get a moisture meter to keep track of the moisture. So at least we have found the culprit. That oftentimes does not happen with some plants that are looking a little sad, but I'm very excited to find out that this is exactly why the plant looked had seen better days. So thank you guys for tuning in. This is Monica from My Potting Patio, and hopefully see you guys next time. Bye-bye.